All right, now we're live. And Dan walked away because he's a jerk. So
He
anyway,
did say he was getting something to drink.
he did. And I said, okay, we're going live. And then he said, I'm going to go get something to drink. So it was obviously on purpose because he's a jerk. Anyway, welcome everybody to our kind of impromptu discussion talking about some of the biggest news happening in wargaming right now, I guess, with the announcement of Mark III. Owen, the cooler, is joining me tonight, and CodexDan is somewhere getting chocolate milk or something. So.
Probably.
Hi, Owen.
Hey.
Okay, so for any of you who haven't heard the Primecast, you must be living under a rock. It went out yesterday with the announcement of Mark III. That will be coming out and releasing at Lock and Load, and then officially releasing to game stores, I think, June 29th. And so massive changes. It's just a whole new edition of the game. So we're just going to kind of take each point as we go through from the Primecast and just sort of discuss that. And this is an interactive medium, so definitely throw your comments in the live chat so we can get your thoughts and discuss your points.
But did we start?
Yeah, we started as soon as you walked away.
You know, when I said we were going live, and then you
literally as soon as you did, because you did.
Yeah.
That's fair. I had to give myself some milk.
I'd believe it.
Anyway. All right, so let's start off with the first thing in the Primecast. This is a full new edition. It's not a remix. It's not like, I guess, when Mark I had a remix, and then like there was Mark II, right? That was how it worked a long time ago, like 7 years ago.
I joined in Mark II.
Yeah, I joined in Mark II as well, so I can't comment on what it was like in Mark I going to Mark II.
Okay. So the audience will have to really talk to us about that. But yeah, so instead of it being a remix, which would imply it's fixing issues that we felt there were with Mark II, the argument there, if there is any, is a Mark III necessary, or would Mark II have been better being remixed or rebalanced? Any thoughts on that?
Didn't they say that when they went to Mark II?
I have no idea.
Okay. Fair enough. All right. Well, what's the first point? You wrote these down, right? We'll go from there. Right.
Well, the first one was Mark II, or Mark III was really needed, but they're just announcing that it's a new edition, which is fine. We can agree that there is like changes needed. There's been 6 years, I guess, since the last edition came out, and the game has grown and changed and developed its own issues. So the first thing they're really changing in the new edition is they say that they are going through each model and rebalancing every single one of them, which sounds mind-boggling, but anyway, that's happening. So that means that there's a possibility of Man of War getting better. There's a possibility of really overpowered units maybe coming down, but I don't know how they're rebalancing it, if it's just all new stuff or if it really is like a power scale change.
Well, they want to make warjacks good, right? So the only way they're going to do that is either make them stronger or weaken infantry. And I vote weaken infantry.
Do you think they'll be just like really downplaying that? Because the points values, they said, I think Wilshik said that Mark 75 points is the new 50. So the battle group sizes are changing and going up a lot. But it still sounds like they want to have the same amount of infantry on the board.
Well, maybe. With because like there's the new power-up rule, right? So white warjacks get a bunch of free focus.
Yeah, that is true. They actually, as part of the rebalancing, I guess, like warcasters and warlocks are getting a completely unique spell and ability, I guess, as separate from their feat. And then they're gonna have like for warcasters, they're gonna have the power-up rule where everybody in their control area gets a 1 focus, or spirit bond, so that you can get 1 fury for each lost war beast, so that you don't get the end game decay that Hordes players say they have.
Don't most casters already have basically a unique spell?
Yeah, most of them. Not all though.
Not all of them, yeah, but most of them have like their own thing. Like Burning Ash is one. Like I know Menoth casters, obviously. So you've got like Cataclysm for Harbinger, Burning Ash for Reclaimer, I guess Krios doesn't because he's got Lamentation and stuff.
Mm-hmm.
But like the Flesh is weak on Resnick 2. I don't know. Just off the top of my head, I can think of a whole bunch of casters, at least in my faction, that don't overlap with other spells in the game.
I mean, Vlad has Blood of Kings. I think he might be unique in that, but everybody else has pretty... Even Iron Flesh isn't just unique to Khador anymore, so I don't know that we have that.
Well, I mean, I was meaning just unique to casters, right? Like, Defender's Ward is on basically half my faction.
I think they're talking about a unique spell or ability that's just unique to that one model.
Yeah. Yeah, that's what it sounds like.
I think it'll be good. It'll encourage more, like, diverse casters, hopefully.
Yeah,
well, we'll see, right? Like, you say that, and it's like, oh, we'll use more diverse casters, but then, like, you turn right back into, like, everyone has their own feat and their own wombo combo of spells, and then it turns out that only 4 casters are viable in each faction.
Well, and that's always the risk, right? Because we have a meta that wants to just play the best of the best. How are they going to remix this so that it isn't just a game of there being the S-tier casters and that's all you're going to go see when you're at conventions, or at least when you're doing tournaments?
The way I see it is that they'd have to do it in such a way that they're incomparables, right? Like apples to oranges kind of thing, where you won't just do a straight power. Like telekinesis is an arguably incredibly powerful spell.
Yeah.
So in order for you to have a spell better than telekinesis, it either has to be cheaper, do damage, or in some way even more significantly hurt your opponent in order for it to be a better spell, right?
Okay.
And so you just do like, okay, TK can either get closer, get further, and disengage. And then you're like, okay, but this caster's going to have a spell that when you engage, they can't get away from you. Like that would be something that is equal value, but not comparable to the other one. Like they're not the same. They're not doing the same thing, and that's the only way I could see balancing it. Like that was an example off the top of my head, but you see what I'm going for.
Yeah. Like the same spell having unique abilities based on almost like how Field Marshal works.
Right.
Better. Although Field Marshal is pretty nice. I thought that was kind of a cool thing when they did that. And I wonder if they're going to explore that more, because you've seen newer casters come out over the years that have had like these really cool abilities, and I wonder if a lot of those abilities you're seeing in the newer models are going to start getting retrofitted to older models. That's a problem.
Well, Christian's made a point here in the chat. Is he's saying, I don't think it's possible to balance a game like this such that there are not a few power lists. I think that sort of balancing is counterproductive. I also disagree. I think there's a reason to try and balance, but it is a curve. It's not a flat, everyone should be equal. It's some guys should spike in some areas, and others should be, and then they have a flaw, and then the other way for another character. And then, like, through all of their ups and downs, it kind of balances itself out.
Well, just so much play. I think one of the issues with having that, like, if your dips are something that can be made up for within your faction, or something that everyone else can't so overly exploit to avoid like lisp chicken issues, where it's like, oh, I'm just up against the wrong caster, I'll just forfeit now, like sort of issues. Then yeah, you can balance it if you can avoid that.
I don't know. With Masters, they're bringing back 3 lists again, apparently.
5 champions. Yeah, no,
Well, it's more like list chicken. Maybe.
That's why you should build your list for the scenario, not for the opponents. Just saying.
And they are changing scenarios. So we might see less of the, 2 12-inch circles, and here's a bunch of like rectangles we're fighting over, or these flags that you can run through. Like, it'd be cool to see more dynamic scenarios, maybe where the situation of the board changes by a certain turn, or I don't know, something that makes you think on your feet a little more.
So something like a maelstrom of war, you're saying?
Possibly. It
Will
doesn't
the
have to
objective change throughout the game?
That would be cool. What?
I can explain why 40k is more fun. No, I'm not even gonna try. Not even gonna try.
Okay, so we'll probably end up redressing 40k as we go down this list a little more, because it's going to come up. But, okay, so with the power-up thing, obviously they're trying to bring more warjacks and war beasts. Now, Hordes, I don't think really had this problem. They were able to bring lots of war beasts anyway, and us Warmachine players lamented that because I like robots, I like bringing robots, and Menoth ended up being the best at that. But with the power up, it looks like 1 focus for jacks. Is that enough to make bringing jacks like a very competitive thing anymore?
Well, you're forced to bring jacks now because they've like tripled the warjack points.
Yeah, you're getting like 28 to 30 warjack points in your list with everything being doubled. So that's what, 2 or 3 jacks?
Well, apparently the thing I've heard is that the warjacks in the starter boxes are all 0. They're 0-point lists.
Yeah.
So the warjacks you're seeing in those starter kits equal out to what the warjack points are, to give you a scale of how many warjacks you're going to get for that. So like 2 heavies in Khador, a heavy 2 lights, a heavy 2 lights, that kind of thing.
Yeah, and they've pretty much said that. Like those battle boxes, you can kind of estimate what those warjack points are going to be equaling out to. But with the power-up ability alone, say that they're not doing much else with the focus mechanic, which we don't know, is that enough to make jacks really good?
Maybe. I mean, if synergy is still a spell, that puts you right on the table with all. Like that makes every jack faction that has synergy, if it retains that kind of spell,
right,
they automatically all can charge or boost, or power attack push, which is all the things they want to get that synergy going.
Oh, okay.
Which, like, that was the big thing with, what's his name, Bradagus, is that all those lights could just force for 1, and there was no cost, because they couldn't frenzy, so you could just do it forever, and then automatically hit, automatically get +1 to your synergy. That was really efficient. But now if you give every one of my jacks it, and I play Raza with like 7 dervishes, and every dervish gets a charge.
Dervishes? Oh my goodness, I don't know that I've seen them on the board.
Nobody knows what these lights are, because nobody plays them, because they're bad. I like them.
They're a great jack.
He is a great jack. He's like the not as good version of the Vigilant, because he's stronger but weaker.
So, I don't know, from my perspective, it's like they're running for free. I guess they can charge for free, so I don't know how that changes the rule, like, aggressive. And then if you're still dealing with focus allocation limits, my Warcasters, most of them, still have only 6 focus, so to fill 3 jacks up would be a lot. They're still sitting there, like, naked with no focus at all on them. So you're still running pretty big risks, and you can't cast any spells. You're still deciding whether or not you're running jacks or casting spells. Unlike Hordes, where you do both. So I don't know if it.
I mean, a lot of jacks are focus efficient. I don't know. I don't know if this encourages more. It opens up a lot of possibilities. Like, for example, in Signar, if you bring chargers, they have rate of fire 2, and so every charger you bring is 4 points, and it gets 2 Rat 6 Pow 12s every turn, and it's somewhat hard to remove because it's a jack. And they just get that free focus and just buy another attack, and they can just like sit there and aim and just be like pump, 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 and just like obliterate infantry.
Do you think they're going to bring down the scale of damage? I mean, getting 1-rounded is so common that you kind of don't worry about bringing things that can repair. Even with Colossals right now, you put them out there with like great trepidation because they could just get 1-rounded, and Banes, of course.
I've seen Bronzebacks kill 2 Colossals in 1 round. That's totally doable.
Well, they said they're going to change Colossals.
That if they stand together.
So
they want
Colossals
to
are
be
going to be changed, apparently. So
they want to make them as good as 4 heavies.
Yeah. They're like, Colossals are like these background things, because if you overcommit them, they die, and then you lose the game. So they're like, so we're going to make it more expensive, but then glorious. So who knows if that's going to backfire or not.
That'd be great. Everyone will buy more Colossals. I'm okay with that.
So, I mean, from a visual perspective, somebody walking into a game store, seeing a bunch of people playing with Colossals, it's why 40K looks so cool. You're like, what are all these tanks and Knight Titans and, like, Warlord Titans and stuff like that? Like, seeing big Colossals is just more appealing to me and maybe some other people when they walk into a game store. And I don't know if that's really the goal they're going for. They've said as much that they want it to be about bringing more robots in. But Mike pointed out in the chat too, like Nemo 3 proved that you need more than focus to make Warjack shine. So maybe those spells. I mean, I know for like me, Karchev's supposed to be a jack caster. Like Harkovich is supposed to be a jack caster, but like they don't give them quite enough tools to do it well, and so they just end up being very mediocre. I wonder how they're going to change like spells to make warjacks more viable in the game. Unless Focus can just do a lot more than it does.
Just make them way more durable and do less damage. That's what I would do. Like double the boxes on every jack, but knock down 5 points of strength, and see how the game goes. Because then you can make arguments that like, yeah, war beasts are doing more damage, but the jacks just take it, and you actually have a reason to bring people who can repair.
That's true, but how you handle like the infantry that's still hitting like psycho hard.
Well, I think infantry is going to get nerfed into the ground. Like,
yeah.
It would not surprise me if the way infantry interacts in this new edition is more similar to how 40k and fantasy infantry interact with one another, in that it's units against units instead of models against models.
Oh, okay. So you're not necessarily
going to be forever to play. Like, that's the thing right now. Like, you look at it and you go, okay, we want to scale up the game. We want to make it so it's bigger. Right now, what is the big reason why you don't bring a spam list in a tournament? Because you're going to clock yourself, right?
Yeah.
So that is not a good thing if you want to sell a lot of models. So if you want to sell a lot of models, you scale up the game, and then you change the rules so that it makes it so you can bring a lot of models. And you make it so it doesn't take forever for every individual guy to be facing his own particular way and doing his own particular thing. You just make it so they hit each other.
Yeah.
That would streamline the game.
Yep. And I'm pretty sure I heard streamline somewhere in that 30-minute podcast.
No, streamlined was definitely brought up. Being approachable and streamlined and easier to learn is their goal. And I just don't know what all that means. I mean, we have heard some of it. Let's see here. We kind of addressed that the war beast warjacks are just going to have a bunch more points. I guess we just jump right into it. It's the big hot button one for everyone. It's the pre-measuring idea. Pre-measuring is going to be in this new edition. We know it's happening. They're deciding that it's not like spatial relation. It shouldn't be a required skill for playing. Yes. So let's talk about that a little. Good, bad. More like why, because everybody has kind of an emotional reaction to it. Like, should this be a required skill, or should this be necessary? Does it turn off new players, or doesn't it? And if not, what does turn off new players? So let's start there. Dan, I think you mentioned on pre-measuring, you don't really find it bothersome.
Well, at first I was like, well, when I was playing 40k, way back when, on my glorious Orc Horde, when they released, 6th edition, when it was like pre-measuring, and I was like, what? This is retarded. What? No. And I was just like, this is just like, I'm like, this is ridiculous. But after playing a while with it, I was just like, that's not that different. For people who have like spent the time to be like, how much is 48 inches and 36, and that spatial reasoning, and it was like almost a different skill set that was like beside it. It was like, okay, so this is how I tactically move my guys, and then on the side that kind of goes with it is I can just look at a board and know how many inches are wherever, and plan out my turn that way. And so it was like another skill set, which when you learned it, it felt gratifying and awesome when things were just in range or just out of range when their opponent was shooting. It was like added something more to the game, but it didn't like make or break the game. Like it was almost like a side thing that was also fun but didn't directly affect the game. Does that make any sense?
You're talking about in 40k?
Yeah, well, it would be the same thing with one.
Well, but didn't 40k also become very strong gunline once pre-measuring got introduced?
Yeah, I guess that's true.
Strong gunline. That and the addition of like Overwatch, but there's a whole bunch of reasons why gunlines got good.
Oh, when you got really quiet.
What?
You got
really quiet.
A little bit. There we go.
Oh, okay. Yeah. So I mean, it's obviously a skill to be able to estimate distances when you look at something on the table and you're like, oh, I think that's about this much. And, you know, it's a legitimate skill. There's nothing wrong with having it. The arguments, I guess, for whether or not it turns off newer players, I think is kind of odd. You can add it into the game, but I don't know you're adding it because now you're going to attract new players for it. I think you want to attract new players, you need to work more on less rote memorization of everything in the game. because Warmachine can be, like, Mark II, one of the biggest issues was, like, the game bloat. Like, everybody had so many special rules to know that, like, taking the time to know that if you want to be competitive.
And now the casters will have more special rules.
Well, and see, that's what I worry about. Like, and so if that is the case, then you're not trying to appeal to getting new players in, or being easy to learn anyway.
I guess that's the thing. Everyone gets a unique spell on a caster, right? What if the caster just gets a spell? That is technically correct.
Just the one?
Yeah, everyone would have one unique spell.
Mm-hmm.
How would it be balanced?
Everybody gets one. Make it work.
So the thing I worry about, which I don't know if it's necessarily, well, it's been talked about a little bit in the Muse on Minis cast, like with pre-measuring, are we going to see a rise in gun lines? Because now you can just measure and keep any melee model across the board out of range of you all game.
Not really. I mean, I play a ton of games, and some are pre-measuring, some are not. All pre-measuring does is just change the style. Like, think of it this way. Okay, you can play a gun line list, right? So I can measure exactly what your range is on your gun, and I can measure exactly how far you can move to get away from me. So I know exactly how far I have to run or not run in order to make you either move forward or not be able to move back.
You think that it'll be just? You think that the speed of the models will be such that you can't escape somebody, like if they are just running into it? Like, I don't know how that would work. I don't know how you'd get close enough unless your charge is faster than their shot range.
Well, yeah, you often get shot first before you make it there, but that happens currently, so I don't see how that's going to be different because you can pre-measure. The only difference would be, like, make it so that if you don't move forward, if you just try and sit back in gun line, you lose the game, like the scenarios currently do. So, like, okay, you can sit back in gun line, and my entire army is going to sit in a zone, and I'm going to only send the fastest or toughest things forward, and you'll have to deal with that eventually, or I'll win. I mean, all pre-measuring does is change the way that you'll move your models. It'll make it so that there's never going to be that situation where you're unsure if you're going to make the charge. You'll just change your strategies based on where things actually end up.
So do you feel that pre-measuring, or do you think that not pre-measuring, not being able to, is a level of strategy and tactics in a game?
Not really.
Really?
In fact, I think it's actually a detriment to strategy and tactics in the game.
Yeah.
But it applies in, like, real-life situations. Like, if you were paintballing with somebody, you don't know your measurement to somebody else, like, but you're still going to, like, work around it. That's, like, a real-world ability.
But that's not, like...
Yeah, we're also playing with tiny plastic giant robot men.
Which is fine, but we're also playing what we call a war game, which is supposed to be a representation of, like, tactics, yeah?
Let's not talk about which war games are the most real.
Okay. I mean, it's not historical war games.
Warmachine is not even on that list.
So with Warmachine, there's perfect knowledge, just like chess. It's a strategy game, and you see everything on the board at all times. And so strategically, if you are good enough to know the distances from looking at it, which players get to, like the high-end level plays, like high-end Iron Gauntlet or like Masters tournaments, it's really, really rare when someone's like, oh, I'm just at a range of something. Like they play solid, they know their ranges, and it's not even an issue because they've learned that. But it doesn't change tactics, whether they can know the distance or not, or like that extra inch or not. It's like it doesn't change the tactics of the game because you have the perfect knowledge of the board, everything's there, and so
have that. But I mean, is this
taking out measuring, putting in pre-measuring? It doesn't change strategy.
Yes, it does. I mean,
not in a perfect knowledge game where you can see everything on the board.
Perfect knowledge game is chess. I mean, this is not a perfect knowledge game. You have dice.
Okay. Well, but the dice have nothing to do with measuring.
What is the benefit of having or not knowing that outside of measuring your control?
So I don't know. I mean, that's really all I'm saying. I mean, if people want to say, oh, pre-measuring's fine, I don't care. It can be fine or not, but why? And that's just what I'm curious about, because I think there's legitimacy to both. I mean, 40K has stuff. I don't know if it's suffered for necessarily having pre-measuring. A good place for pre-measuring, I think, is like a game like Malifaux, where you have so few models that interact and do so many special things. You kind of don't want to waste those activations. But not having pre-measuring does add a level of of risk that is part of how you play your game, how you decide what risk you're going to take.
But it adds more fun to the game. It adds more for more like tense moments. You're like, oh, this is the charge, and then like the measuring goes in. Am I within reach range? That's fun, and that won't be in the game anymore. But I don't think that takes away from the strategy of the game.
I'm not saying it's breaking it, but it's a different enough thing that it does change how strategic I think it is.
Yeah, but it makes it less fun. Like, we can all talk about it because we've played like 1,000 games of Warmachine each.
Yeah.
And like, yes, I can sit there on my turn and be like, okay, I deployed at 7 and I walked 6, and you deployed at 10 and you walked 5. I'm in range to shoot you. But when a person goes to start playing and they're like, oh, I want to charge you with my beast, and you're like, oh, I'm a quarter of an inch out. Looks like my beast does nothing, and you get to kill him. Well, I guess I shouldn't have done that. How do I not do that in the future? Oh, I just need to know that distance.
Well, and maybe that could even be coming back down to maybe things shouldn't get one-rounded so easily in this game.
Well, I mean, you could just easily fix that by making it so new people can measure how far apart they are.
Kind of. I mean,
you can
the
basically
other thing is they come into, and this is a bit off center from it, but new players, right? We're arguing what a new player can do. They charge into Beast X, but they don't know that it has all these like special rules to like retaliatory strike or defensive strike, or its defense goes up now that you're in contact with it. I mean, aren't those just as punishing to new players?
No, they're not, because once you know that it has those abilities, that will never happen again where you don't know that that happens. But you'll always be on the edge about that measurement. No matter how good or bad you get, there's always going to be like, I don't know if I'm quite there. Like, later on you can learn like, oh, that's a bronzeback, it has these abilities. And then the only question will be, can I kill it with those abilities? The question will never be, can I kill it with those abilities, and am I within my 8-inch charge?
And the bronzeback card is there with all the information on the other side of the table, or it's on your app, on your phone, where it's like, okay, I didn't know that.
Game and you just time out.
Right, but it's like kind of something like, I'll go home and read up on this person's army and try to figure out all the things they do, and then, okay, I know what they do, instead of, I'll go home and practice measuring. You know, it's just...
So that may not necessarily be required. I just don't know that pre-measuring is bad. Like, it just seems weird that the response to this has just been like, no, it's fine, it's always been fine. Like, I don't know, I mean, is it? Like, take a moment to think about it. And it does, I mean, there is strategy to taking that risk, is my argument. And yes, if you are going to take the time to know how to do that, you know, how to know that that's 7 inches, how to know that that's 4.5 inches, then you are going to, then being a better player for that isn't necessarily a bad thing. I don't know that that is what turns off new players, if that is the argument. If the argument that it's a negative play experience for older players, then you're talking about the cast or kill mechanic in all likelihood, rather than like the initial clash, which could be kind of exciting if you're just like short a little bit. It's not costing you necessarily the entire game. And maybe it's because the cast or kill mechanic is so brutal that not being able to pre-measure is so scary.
It's not just the caster mechanic. It's like, I have my big warjack that does tons of damage, and I strategically place on my guys to absorb a charge, then force his heavy to come deal with things, or he's going to lose my scenario, and then my heavy countercharges him, and it's great, but I'm a bajillionth of an inch out, and I lose the game.
But the thing is, like, it's not even a matter of like, yes, your point about that, like him having special abilities that you're not aware of that you lose to, right? Yeah. That's a game mechanic that you lose to. If you lose because your guy isn't strong enough to kill that guy, that's a game mechanic you lose to. If you lose because you misjudged the distances between those two, that is a skill outside of the game. Like, being able to measure distances isn't something indicative to Warmachine. Knowing the defensive abilities of a bronzeback is. And they gave you this ability in the game, which is measuring your control, which experienced players can use to measure basically anything.
Largely, but it's not a guarantee. Even that's still a risk.
Okay, like, I play Harbinger, there's never a time I don't know the distances.
Okay, you play the one caster with 10 focus.
Okay, I play Haley, Okay, I play Reshef. Okay, I play Assyria. Okay, I play Zerkova. Okay, I play, like, the list goes on, right?
So you think just being able to measure even 5 inches is enough to know, to be able to triangulate everything in the game?
I'm saying that the point of it is that you should lose because of the game itself, not an ability that's just arbitrarily attached to the game.
And that's kind of the point I was making earlier, is it's kind of like a separate skill on its side that relates to the game as it is now, but isn't necessarily part of the game.
But hasn't that always been argued as what even Mark II was? You lose because you don't know the game, not because
Yeah,
But that's not
not
the
because you
game.
can pre-measure. You don't win the game because you don't know what every model on your opponent's side of the board can do. I mean, that's typically what's been considered in the high-end gameplay to be what costs you a game.
Yep, and losing because you don't know what that model does or the combo that you didn't see coming is totally reasonable. Yep, you're going to lose because of that. Losing because you misjudged the charge or misjudged how close he is not the same thing. That's you losing because of something outside of the game.
Like going back to Malifaux. Malifaux, you always lose because you don't know what they're doing, because Malifaux has even like crazier rules for all the things they can do.
Combo.
But they have pre-measuring.
Yeah, I mean, but they have pre-measuring a lot of like sort of side movement stuff, and I don't know if Warmachine's going to start introducing more out of activation movements to change how pre-measuring works, because even with 40K, when they added that, which as far as I could tell was just to sell their like game boards, they randomized your ability to charge. Like your distance now became like a Candyland game, which, how strategic is that?
Let's hope they don't randomize charges.
Well, I mean, I don't know. It takes a variable, an abstract variable, out of the game, which means the only abstract variable you're left with in this game is dice. And you know what? It also really sucks when the dice just roll double ones and you're trying to hit. And so, I mean, it's not like we're trying to remove every negative play experience from here, right? And I don't know how big a deal it is to people to, again, have to memorize so much of what your opponent can do. And anytime I've talked to players who weren't interested in Warmachine or walked away from it, is because they said that they don't want to spend all their time like learning all the models. They want to know their army. They want it to be like the skill based around what their army can do, what they know they can do, instead of like knowledge of what the other opponent can do.
Oh, I straight up tell people when they get into the game, I'm like, you're going to lose a lot of games because of I didn't know that you could do that.
And losing 800 games in a row, well, okay, losing the first 20 games in a row, realistically, as a new player, I don't know how much that draws new players in.
I was winning all my first games. You guys are just bad.
I think
I lost most of my games to you, Dan, because you would strictly play Haley 2 when I was learning how to play.
You played Veil 1.
I played friggin' what's her name? What's the one that starts in the battle box?
Lilith?
Yeah, I was playing Lilith 1. Don't lie.
It's true. I just wanted to destroy you so bad. After all our 40K games.
That's what you get for playing Orcs, the bad faction.
I was like playing Orcs against Town. I'm like, it's not working. And I'm like, okay, welcome to Warmachine. But, you know.
Anyway.
Right then. So, I mean, if the argument is, again, like, oh, this is a negative play experience because I can't pre-measure, how is that different than from losing because you did not know that that Sorcia could run 18 inches or
but
that's
not the same thing. Knowing that Sorcia can run 18 inches isn't the same as I can see how far 18 inches is, right? Like, you can always know every model potentially, but you can't always know every measurement. You can at best guess the measurements, right? Like, you're never going to perfectly see the dot lines between them, but you can always tell exactly what every model's capable of doing. You just need to spend the time to look at it. But you'll never know every measurement. So why not just make it so, while you know every single card and its ability, let's make it so you know every measurement and how far away people are, and then strictly make the game based on where you put your guys and how you combined their different abilities, as opposed to where you put your guys, and hopefully you eyeballed it better than your opponent did.
And had the better abilities that they may have not known about. I don't know that you're really talking about a lot more time spent, because you have to play so many games to know your opponent's stuff.
Yeah, getting good.
It's like understanding like measurement, for example, would be almost like a secondary thing that you just pick up rather than rather than something you have to spend separate time learning, which you would have to do for somebody else's army.
I don't think pre-measuring is gonna like be the make or break thing that's gonna draw a bunch of new people to the game. Like that's not what it's gonna do. But it'll solve a lot of issues with beginning players
and moderate players.
and moderate
everybody from the bottom to the middle. Like, yeah, you can argue that like really good, really experienced players don't have to worry about as much, but the pile of games that I've watched people lose because of like hairs of inches that they're like, I had this game in the bag and I could have moved there, I just didn't because I mislooked at what 11 inches was. Like, that is a negative play experience because both players knew that that guy should have won and that he just eyeballed it slightly wrong and there's nothing the other person could have done. They just messed up, and it's one of those like, you were the worst player.
And so yeah, that's an element of chaos. And that will probably, I agree, probably take like the middling group and make that spread to the higher level a lot closer.
What I'm saying
is that it will
add to people needing to use the abilities in their armies. Like you said, like the things that your opponent doesn't know about, those wombo combos they don't see coming, will be more important than they currently are. Because that'll be the only thing that decides your victory. It will no longer be like a half-inch out or a half-inch in or whatever the case may be.
Then it's still a game of having to know what everybody else does, and you'll still lose over and over and over and over.
Yep. Better to lose because you didn't know he couldn't do it than I couldn't tell how far away 12 inches is. I'd rather lose because I didn't know that guy could do it, and the next game be knowing that he could do that and still play around that, as opposed to like, oh, I'm bad at guessing it distances.
I guess. I mean, and if it comes down to like worrying about that being I guess maybe too much of a requirement physically, I don't know, but it's. I don't see how it helps new players. I see how it helps middling and up players, because if that's been your weakness when you've already gotten into the game, then yeah, that goes away. But it doesn't help you early game, because the big thing you're going to get killed by is what your opponent can do, not how much distance you had.
Yep. No, and it's true. You will have to learn. I mean, like think of it for a battle box game, right? So you only have like 4 models. Everyone's got maybe 12 abilities across those 4 models. You play a game, you didn't realize he could do X, you get killed. But you never lost that game because he happened to eyeball that charge a little bit better than you did, or you messed up your charge slightly. And then you guys play again. You all know what everyone has now, and you play it again. But now it comes down to just outplaying the other guy's ability, not the measurement.
Theoretically. It's a lot of memorization. And I say that as somebody who isn't very good at memorizing, which is probably as valid as like not having the eyesight or like just a good sense for like knowing measurements. So I mean, if you just, and yes, you can always look at somebody's card, but if you're talking about tournament play, you're being timed and it does pressure you.
So let's say Owen is amazing at measuring things, eyeballing things. He's like the best. He knows. He's like a human measuring tape with his eyeballs. And I just struggle with it.
Yeah.
It doesn't matter how tactfully sound everything is that I do as I move up the board and have these plans to just destroy his army. If I screw up some measurements, the game's over for me and he wins. If he like measures perfectly or like keeps just out of the charge ranges and everything and like tempts me, he's like, ooh, that looks like it's in, I don't know if it's in, I don't know, and then I make a silly mistake. It's just like, why is that such an important thing to be part of the game? Like, how does that enhance?
It's an element. I mean, I think Infinity is probably one of the last few games that doesn't allow it. Is that probably true?
Yeah, there's no pre-measuring in Infinity, but that's for a lot of reasons.
What kind of reasons?
Well, the way their game functions a lot based on distances, and you always have multiple options when a distance measurement comes up. So for example, like your gun will have different range bands which it's good at. So like 0 to 8, 8 to 16, 16 to 24. But you always have on that table the ability to dodge, which is unmodified. And so you have to decide like, okay, do I feel it's better to dodge or is it better to try and shoot back? And then you know that there's the 2 options. So yes, there's a measure of like getting distances in that game, but it's in the same boat of like, you've done it once, you're going to do it repeatedly from that point on. But that game is a totally different animal than the way Warmachine plays.
Which is fair.
Terrain.
But I mean, do you think it would suffer from having like measuring in that one too?
I think that one would just be it would benefit in all the exact same ways that Warmachine would by having pre-measuring, in that your ability to maneuver your models will become the #1 ability as opposed to trying to get distances correct. Like, trying to shoot a guy with your HMG and you're out by a ½ inch, when you could have moved up that extra ½ inch, is just as frustrating as failing a charge by that ½ inch. If you made it so you could pre-measure, cool. You'll always... Then the only thing that'll matter is how you move your guys is going to be more important than, like, trying to guess those movements while you do it.
Yeah.
It is a skill. I mean, like, I'm pretty good at measuring distances. Like, I can eyeball stuff pretty well, but I don't feel like that's a skill that is necessary in these games. I think it actually draws away from, like, you go play a game like Kings of War.
Mm-hmm.
You can pre-measure in Kings of War, but it's an amazing movement tactical game in, like, how you position your models, and that's, like, the whole game. And that's how you decide how you win. So, and Malifaux's the same way. You're not going to lose because you couldn't tell the distance. You're going to lose because that guy had a cool plan, and his plan worked.
Yeah. Or you didn't know what the other guy could do, or you did, or even if you see it on the card, you don't know how that combo works. You don't know how that interaction works.
I'm making the assumption that everyone knows how to play the game. Like, everyone knows what everyone's going to do.
But we're talking about new players too. I mean, we're also talking about what draws people in to want to play these games. And
okay. But losing pre-measuring isn't going to affect new players. Losing pre-measuring is going to affect everyone who currently plays the game. Because anyone who goes to join after this point will have not known that you couldn't pre-measure before. Like,
or retired and came back. Yeah.
Sure. And the moral of the story will be simply that, like, if everyone knows how to play the game, your ability to play the game will be the only thing that's important, and luck, rather than your ability to eyeball distances, which can be just as, if not more important, than your ability to actually play the game. Now, if you want to say that that ability to eyeball it is a measurement of how to play the game, that's, like, we're just going to agree to disagree there. I don't think it should be. Your ability to make good combos and how to position to do them should be the measurement.
Yeah, and positioning, as far as those sort of tabletop strategy goes, in my opinion, positioning is, like, #1. That should be part of your strategy and knowing where to go.
Right, and that won't go away whether it was pre-measuring or not.
I suppose. It's different. I find everybody's, like, wild defense of it kind of odd, but, and again, it's not game-breaking. It's not I'm going to not play Warmachine because of it.
Okay, so I just want to point out that I felt exactly the same way you did with 40K when they introduced pre-measuring. I felt the same way. All the same arguments. I was like, but when I started playing it, I was like, actually, it wasn't that big of a deal.
So I'm not saying this like I'm feeling betrayed here. I'm just finding it curious because I think the reasoning is odd. If it's for older players and it's just like they don't like the sting of being out, all right, then that's fine. And again, don't see how it feels good to new, or how it invites newer players. But that's really just my stance on it. And again, it's not like I kind of liked it just because I was good at it, and so people, you know, who were good at it feel like that skill is now being wasted. I guess whatever. It's still like a skill you can have if you want. It's not needed for one game.
Well, it's not even like a game skill. Like going to carpentry,
yeah,
just as useful.
Yeah. Exactly. Carpentry, very useful.
Exactly. That's why I'm like, it's not a wargaming skill. Like, it's not a thing.
It is. It's a real life skill, but so is the ability to think ahead and strategize. I mean, it's what these games kind of practice as well. And so it's not just about, like, not the same as just being entertained by a movie or something where you're like, oh, I'll just sit here and be entertained. Like, you're being active in it.
Now,
anyway, we've been doing this for like 30 minutes. So.
I know. I figured it would be a hot button topic, but I did want to be clear that it wasn't like, oh, I'm so hurt by this. It's just, it does affect the game, and it's a major change. It's one of the biggest changes to it. One of the other big changes we mentioned, as people are going on to chat about, is psychology is gone altogether, which is interesting because that really affects cricks. It affects anybody who really can push terror checks.
I don't even know what terror does. Like,
I think, yeah, Menoth has all fearless units.
I don't think I've ever had a unit break before. I've had my enemies break before, but
that's fun. See, I think it's wonderful because psychology was there's a really low chance,
and it broke the game.
That, and then all of a sudden it was like, oh, your unit fled. Well, I guess I win the game.
Yep.
Well, that was a good game. You failed that 10+.
No, the psychology rules in this prior edition were horrible. Like, they really could just completely nullify a unit, and having Widowmakers with only a command of 8 meant that was very, very often happening to that unit, and it was horrible. So I'm not going to miss it, I think psychology rules could have been done, but it's not like a big deal that they kind of took it out. For how rules heavy this game is, maybe it would be part of that streamline that can allow for faster gameplay.
I've had some fun with psychology, like playing with my pigs, and there's like Maximus who causes terror, and then like a bunch of units aren't fearless, and you're like trying to maneuver him through your own units so they don't terrify each other. And that's kind of like its own little strategy, and that was kind of fun. But if it's gone, no big loss.
My example of it like ruining a game is I was playing at the Ontario Team Championship a few weeks ago, and I was playing against a troll guy, and he had like his Colossal and a bunch of beasts, and he had a full unit of one of the goblins that throw fire now.
The goblins that what?
The little goblins that throw fire all over. They have oil. They changed the game.
Oh, they're frogs.
Frogs, yeah, whatever they're called.
Yeah, the
or the croak raiders.
Croak raiders.
Croak raiders. There you go. I know how to play this game. So they have the croak raiders and a full unit of the highwaymen. Full unit. Haven't touched any of these guys. I ran one temple flayed guard up and engaged 2 of them, broke both units, and I'm like, okay, well, you're down 20 models, and that was just a throwaway guy. So, good luck.
Yep.
And he's like, oh, well, he was leadership 10. It shouldn't have happened. I'm like, I agree. But you've lost this game now. Welcome to tournament series scene.
Yeah, and because not everybody did have counters for that, and sometimes the dice would just leave you in the cold on a command check, then yeah, it was too binary for a game that's only going to go 3 or 4 turns generally. That you lose 2 whole turns to a psychology break at a minimum is bad. It caused so many problems.
I don't think anyone argues that they should keep psychology in the game. I haven't heard it once.
No, I mean, I don't think anybody really missed it because too many people were still affected by it. I mean, again, Crix didn't care because, and apparently Menoth didn't care all that much, but like being undead, it was one of the great benefits of being undead in the game, was you don't have to worry about terror checks.
Now you just don't have to worry about being eaten.
Well, yes. I guess it's a way of keeping your models in the game longer. So there's that. There's other benefits to undead besides just immunopsychology. But yeah, I mean, there's a lot of rules that say if charging a living model, you have +2 movement. Like those things are very, very beneficial. I hope they kind of address that because I hate that being living is almost a debuff game right now. I think it's very frustrating. One of the other big things they're changing, allegedly, and we kind of mentioned it earlier, is like the huge base model stuff. I'm curious how this will affect things like battle engines. If they will be as good on a scaled-up size in addition to Colossals, because I know they were talking about Colossals and them being 4 times the value of a warjack and 4 times better, but I wonder if they will give that same love to the other huge base models, the battle engine.
I hope they don't, because that means like you're only bringing like 1 or 2, and like you can't. I like my double storm strider, okay? Because like the more you're buffing a model, it's like the way they're talking about Colossals is like you're only bringing 1 Colossal in the game. I don't think you can afford to bring 2.
When they came out.
What?
They said that when the first Colossals, they'll be like, you'll just need 1. And Haley double Stormwall, Sevi double Judicator, Bark double Galleon.
But I mean points-wise.
I'm pretty sure that's all of them.
Or there's the triple Earthbreaker list.
That too.
Oh my goodness, 3 of them?
Yeah, it's pretty funny.
Well, and so that kind of touches on another thing that has developed in the national meta as Mark II has had its run, is spammy lists. And I wonder if they're going. I mean, I'm assuming that this edition is supposed to maybe start shoring that up a bit, because I know that turns players off. It's just like, oh, I have to face 3 of these things? Are you kidding me?
Yeah, I think.
I don't know. I don't think so.
Well, Warmachine is all about everything being a glass cannon, more or less. Like, everything can deal way more damage than it can take. Like, nothing can really take that much damage. I mean, there are exceptions, right? But for the most part, the general rule is you can output way more damage than you can take.
That's how you make the game end. Because if people take less than they can give out, or rather the other way around, rather, your games just take longer, and the
Right.
game already takes forever to play. Like, it is a super tedious, long game when you go to play
Yes,
it.
no.
Like, 50, 20
Anytime I face Trailbloods, it's that game. Which, I mean, you were kind of talking earlier about reducing the strength on models so they don't hit as hard. So wouldn't that elongate the game loop?
Yep, it would. So what you end up doing is you change it so that the way models interact with each other gets faster. So instead of rolling like I said for units, where you just make it where it's unit against unit instead of model against model, you shrink down the amount of time needed like vastly. It's no longer every individual is squaring off against every individual with all of their different particular benefits, blah blah blah. It's just like I attack that unit with this unit.
Right.
Doesn't make it better, it makes it different.
But the thing with that is, how do you keep the 2d6 system with that en masse?
Yep.
Fair question.
Doesn't really work that way. Or,
Unless
I don't know, maybe it could.
Unless you went like warjacks are def 6 and people are mat 4, then you don't need 2d6 anymore. And then you get rid of the bell curve. Oh, now we're playing 40k.
More dice.
No. That's one thing I really like about Warmachine is the bell curve. Like, there's there's strategic risk. It's like, okay, there's percentage chances and different things, and it's kind of like, and it's more of a likelihood instead of just a 1d6. Like, nothing reminded me more than that when we were playing Talisman, where you just had the 1d6 rolls. You're like, ugh. So.
Well, I mean, D20 arguably has that issue with such a wide spread on one die. But, I mean, apparently it works in Infinity.
It kind of does.
Oh, yeah. Do you
Everyone's all in the same boat of like, oh god, anything could happen. Yeah.
Well, and that's where you have the randomness of your game, which is why it can never be a perfect knowledge game.
You set it up so every dice roll is in a way that they can't defend themselves. That's how you win Infinity, by the way.
Oh, okay.
An attack.
So yeah.
Don't worry about it. It's
pro tips.
Yeah, that's a pro tip.
What, man?
Oh, there you go. Roll 2 dice, add the number in the unit plus the skill, and then subtract the armor. Remove that many models from the unit. So, like, you'd be like, yeah. I'm POW 9, you're armor 15, roll 2d6, dice minus 6, each success is 1 model removed from your unit. That's still a 2d6 bell curve, and it makes the game a lot easier and faster.
It's true, but one good roll could wipe out a whole unit.
Yeah, it becomes fast. It just becomes very hard hitting, and you could have a very negative play experience again.
Well, no. Then what you do is you just up the scale so that like instead of bringing 2 or 3 units, you're bringing like 7, and then it doesn't matter as much because over the course of the game, it will balance itself out.
Oh, there you go. And from game to game, it'll balance itself out. And as long as you just keep buying all of the models, you'll keep winning.
Hey, that's the name of making a game that is a miniature game. Sell miniatures. If you're not selling miniatures in your miniature game, you're not making money, and then your game doesn't get made. And I'm all for buying models for games because I like companies existing.
People will buy models even if they don't play the game, but having an IP
I don't
helps.
know about that.
Well, I mean, there's a whole painting community that, like, Kingdom Death really had a game for a long time, and what is it, Epic Dangerous Most Badass Girls in the Galaxy or whatever, they had no game. That Kickstarter was wildly successful. But I mean, again, it's still like you have to have cool models. And I'm not saying let's take money from the mouths of the privateer or anything like that. People are going to keep buying models, and people are going to keep wanting options for their units. Malifaux argues having a low model count game, but side to that part to that is everybody's still going to go buy a bunch of models because they want the variety. So they can still do that.
Well, okay, so they said they're doubling the points value, right?
Of some.
Yes. They are approximately doubling, yeah.
Okay, and then 75 points is a new 50, but you're giving away 3 times as many warjack points, so it's more like 80 to 90, like more like 95 points, and so it's slightly smaller battle.
Well, he says 75 is the new 50. And so from the sound of it, your entire battle group is just covered with your warjack points, and then you're spending your points to just fill out infantry. Maybe.
Or warjacks.
Maybe. But, I mean, I don't know that that's necessarily the goal they're going with, maybe. But, again, it depends on how much focus you have.
Yeah, I mean, the game is forcing you to bring more warjacks. The bigger...
Which Mario 2 forced you to bring any at all. And then this one forced you to bring more. And forcing isn't even a bad thing. I mean, again, a lot of people got the game thinking they'd get to play with robots and didn't.
Well, like Mark 1 didn't have any warjack points at all, right? And people just didn't bring warjacks at all. Because it was like, why would I bring a warjack? If I could spend these points on another infantry list, that'll be better than a warjack.
Well, exactly. Just their survivability is different. And so they're going to have to, I don't know, it still seems like they're going to have to address warjack survivability. Someone in the chat had mentioned, is going kind of fast here, tough. I kind of would like to see a change to tough, because that is also a very frustrating mechanic in the game that, especially like warcasters who have it, or warlocks who have it, where they feasibly can continually roll tough, where you have a negative play experience again, where you can't kill something, you know? What are your thoughts on tough? They haven't addressed anything. This is the wild speculation part.
I've hated tough since I found out that it existed in this game, because it is so antithetical to every other ability in Warmachine. I didn't understand why it's in the game in the first place.
It's feel no pain.
Everything in this game is a bell curve and an odd. Like there's always that bell curve of success, and tough is literally just like 33% no. And they're like, oh well, you can bring things that remove tough, and you go, okay, so every faction has like 1, and half of those are crits.
Yeah.
Yeah, I'm gonna plan for that. Oh, you have an entire faction of tough models. Oh, okay. Better every time bring something to counter that, or maybe I never need it. Who knows? Can't plan for it. I always said that it should be like, what's the Ogren who dies and comes back with full? Just do that. Make it that you can't kill them in 1 hit. Make it so 1 hit never kills them, and then boom, there you go.
Well, and I wonder if they're going to do something like that with Colossals, because they are such a high value target. I wonder if they'll limit how much damage it can take in a round, for example.
But the other thing with but then there's just board keeping. Like if something doesn't die in 1 round, but it's an infantry model with 1 hitbox, like then you have to put like a marker beside it, being like it's died once, now it has to die again, kind of thing.
Mhm. Well, and that would be better, because the current tough thing, it is a thing that takes strategy out of it, because you're like, okay, I've got this, and I've gone in to kill you, or I've gone in for the caster kill, and you've toughed, like, I built in 3 attacks for redundancy, and you toughed everything. So that was fun. Like
my problem with that is like, because everyone always looks at this from like the one way or the other, and you go like, oh, tough is really annoying when my opponent makes all of his tough rolls.
And when I make none of mine.
For your opponent when they never make them, right?
Yeah.
And so it's a thing that can't be relied upon in a game of bell curves, right? Like there's always that like yeah, it's true. You have that likelihood of rolling snake eyes every fight, and it's potentially likely that you'll roll snake eyes every attack. But like tough is a very high percentile compared to some of the other ones, and it's likely to happen, and there is no counterplay to it in most lists other than just try again.
Yeah.
And in a game where your attacks are so limited, that's an entire mechanic of the game, is having many attacks. What can you do other than like hope that he doesn't roll a 5 or a 4 when he brings boom owlers? I don't know. I use the idea of them dying twice as an example, but like maybe make it so that you have to reach a certain threshold before you do damage, or I don't know, something else.
Malifaux actually has pretty good answers for that. I mean, they have like hard to wound and impossible to kill, where you cannot do it in 1 shot. You have to at least come back with more, which is actually
multiple boxes.
What's that?
Those are all modeled because they all have multiple hit points.
Well, you could do that, right? If you're gonna rebalance all the models, just give trolls 2 hit points and everyone else gets 1.
There you go.
And then you can never do more than 1 hit point per hit.
And it would just be like a guaranteed tough once and not again.
Then trolls wouldn't have to buy as many models because they'd be really powerful, so you'd have to bring less.
Right. So
yeah, that's how that works.
But you just put that into the points value. Like trolls are pretty terrible infantry, right? Like 12-15 is the standard across the board for them. Those are victim stats in every other faction.
Right.
Trolls get the stone. Oh, they're 17 now? That's a victim stack in almost every other faction. but they get tough. And sometimes that makes them godly unpowerful, like overpowered, and other games, they just get pushed off the board. And you never know which way it's going to go if they brought an infantry army. Why not just make it so that you can charge them accordingly, and it's reliable and consistent, which is everything else in this game.
Yeah.
Or just make tough a 2d6 on a 7+. I'd still be
that would be kind of
a
interesting.
9+. And then now it's like it's more obnoxious because it's more dice rolls, but it's you can tell where that reliability lands, and it will more likely fail, but it can still work. And then it's still consistent with the rest of the game's rules.
Right.
I don't know.
What else do you look forward to?
Well, the last thing, really, I guess, I mean, they talk a little bit about the lock and load release. The big thing they're talking about is the storyline. They're doing a time jump of about 2 years. So the story that we're in right now is going to be getting wrapped up. And the factions, it says factions might be represented differently now. Signar is not besieged but aggressive, so they're trying to avoid, like, any good guy thoughts, I guess. And it says that Signar versus Kadar, no characters are safe. Like, characters may die now. Not Game of Thrones style, which was said in the Prime cast, but immunity is off. Which would be interesting. I don't think they'll kill the Butcher ever. But we'll see who actually can die.
What
I look at some like
currently. What is the story
is
that's
the only
ending? I honestly have no idea.
Yeah, I mean, Sturgis technically died, but then he just became undead. I guess Denegra died and then became undead. Like, it didn't matter. It just, you die, you go epic. Like, there's nobody who's like, oh, they're dead in the lore, like you do have in other games.
No, sorry, I meant like, what is the storyline that they're wrapping up? Like, what's going on?
Oh gosh, what is?
There was like a massive battle in Thornwood that's been happening for forever with the trolls and everything. Apparently, they're moving away from that so they can explore other parts of the world.
Well, that's good.
And then, yeah, Crix had a big place there, and Menoth was, like, crusading through Kador, and Lael, nobody cared about, and Siegebridge Bane, nobody cared about, and, yeah, not, I don't know how it's going to wrap up. I haven't been following it lately, so. But I think the story's gone on so long, and a few of the books really just dragged it out where it barely progressed at all. So it's probably good that they're just going ahead and wrapping it up, and yeah, like Dan said, exploring other parts of the world.
They need, like, all the main characters from all the main factions to die. Like, full-on Game of Thrones style. I would love that. Like, Stryker dies, Sorsha dies.
No.
I guess Haley would die. I don't know. Haley already kind of died with her Haley 3 thing. It was like, I'm sick, I'm dying. Oh, I'm not dead. I'm 3 Haleys now.
Yeah.
My
That was
thing is,
interesting.
like, it was so arbitrary that they even bothered to like let them come back. Because I'm like, you can still play the old version. It didn't change the gameplay in any way. It's not like Haley dying or Denny getting cut in half really affected the game. I can still go play P. Denny against Haley 3.
Yeah. Well, and they kind of broached it a little bit. Somebody mentioned in the comments, Mike, Signar Stryker killing Terminus. He kind of killed him, but, you know, his Anthak was in another castle, so it didn't matter. But it would be interesting. That actually does not affect the gameplay, like, at all. I mean, I guess they wouldn't go epic again, but are they really going to keep doing more than, like, 3 iterations of a given caster?
Well, they released Haley 4 in April.
3?
It was the big, like, thing of Haley, like the model. They, like, put that on and they gave her, like, it was April Fool's thing.
Oh, I see. I don't remember what I was doing April Fool's. Adepticon. No. Maybe? Yeah. Yeah, it was.
Yeah. I don't know. I saw it afterwards and I thought it was funny.
I see.
Yeah, I missed all the April Fool's shenanigans. Kristen Labor, Harvey and Avatar died. I don't know about Avatar. I remember a storyline where Vlad and Harbinger, and she asked him to kill him, but I've heard both that she was just replaced, which she's treated exactly the same, or she came back. So I wasn't.
Landfill 2. You're twice the landfill Landfill 1 was.
But seriously, like, Stryker has 3 iterations. Stryker just needs to die now. Apparently this new caster, the Major Maddox or whatever, which has, like, her big Final Fantasy sword. Yeah, all the new casters for all the new factions. That's super exciting.
That's true. There's the new Iron Fang caster, which I guess I should put together my Iron Fangs now.
Those are fun, I heard.
They're metal.
Especially they're big and need poles.
Yeah, no, it's 3 battle boxes. We can go into
Yeah.
that. I don't have them listed, but
So basically, Striker, I've heard rumors that he has a thing with this new female caster, and so now that there's a romance, someone needs to die, right?
yes, like an HBO
Calling it
show.
right now. Striker's gonna die. I want him to die. I love Striker. I love all his iterations. I love playing him, but I don't need a Striker 4 now. I want some new stuff, which is great. We got like a new storm like that. We need some like.
You know, he could retire. I mean, there's a thought. He could just be like, he just lives in a tower somewhere as a crazy old man. He'll never die.
From what little I know of the fluff, Striker is just not that kind of guy.
Apparently Nemo's not, because he's going to be like 140 and fighting.
Nemo's my favorite. I can have a Nemo 5, and I'll bring on the Nemos. I don't want Nemo to die. He's my guy.
But he's like, whatever. He can make Haley go all like Dark Phoenix because he dies, and that would be terrible.
I want to see Nemo 4 being put inside of a Stormwalker the same way Karchev is in a Jack.
Yes.
Huh.
It's just his face carved in the front of the machine and a giant brain. Then it walks around shooting lightning bolts.
Oh, like a glass-encased brain? Like
Yeah.
Mars Attack style? Yes.
And it's got the little like crew walking around it, and it's got the big legs, and then it's just got a gigantic like Mars Attacks laser gun on the top.
And a little like sound off that says "We come in peace."
We are your friends.
Signar Battle Group, the new box is going to have a Major Beth Maddox with 1 Firefly Light Warjack, 1 Lancer Light Warjack, and 1 Ironclad Heavy Warjack, plus 5 color stat cards. So.
Why do they specify color?
I don't know.
Are there non-color stat cards?
Look at the plastic.
We're not doing Mark 1. How is described, okay?
So how they previewed all the plastic is like it's a colored plastic. I don't know if they did that for emphasis or whether it's going to be. It's almost like they're like one piece, which is not going to happen. But I don't know why they made it look like that, or what. Even if they had colored plastics, like what?
They're color stat cards, not plastic.
No, but in the picture, it shows.
Oh yeah, I didn't even.
They're all color-coded based on the factions, like the little models in the background. It has a this is like the grind plastic they used before.
Okay.
It's almost like a board game plastic miniature. They have like those colored.
Colored PVC. That's what
There you go.
Peanut Gallery is saying.
And then Protector is going to get Malachus, the Burning Truth, Repenter, Light Warjack, Revenger, Light Warjack, and 1 Castigator, Heavy Warjack.
Woo, Castigator!
Yeah. Maybe they're gonna make him good. Who knows?
Okay, I was actually going to ask, like, how good do these jacks sound right now?
Who knows? Who knows?
The arc node's okay.
Fair enough.
That's the thing, though, is like because they can change so much. Like it's hard to say. I mean, obviously, it'll probably keep from edition to edition. I assume it'll keep its role and general feel for like all the jacks and units. I don't think there'll be like massive changes, except for maybe the Colossals, like they said. But
Yeah, well,
Even a massive change could just literally be a number of boxes change. I mean, you could half again every box, and they'd all of a sudden become like super annoying.
yeah, well, it eliminates 1 rounding, which is the current issue Colossals again face, and most warjacks. I mean, it's always the peace trade, right? So, Kador is getting Lord Kozlov, Count of Skarsgrad, 1 Juggernaut Heavy Warjack, which you can never have too many of, and 1 Decimator Warjack, which is actually the 1 Warjack left I don't already own. So, yeah.
I love Decimators. With Sorcia 1, they're great.
Yeah, I have no doubt. I just.
Beat back on their gun, and just shoot stationary guys and just kind of move them out of the way, and then move yourself forward.
Up
Too bad
for.
you don't have any focus. Be really cool.
Crix is getting Bane Witch Agatha, or Agathia. 1 Death Ripper Light Warjack, Slayer Heavy Warjack, and a Reaper Heavy Warjack. 2 heavies and a light.
She looks an awful lot like a new Frostgrave caster.
I guess that's true.
I'm not gonna lie. Every like model I see that comes out for anything now are all put through the I wonder if this will work in a warband game I play like system.
Nice, nice. Retribution of Syra. 1 Magister Helena Vaher. 1 Chimera Light Warjack. 1 Griffin Light Warjack. 1 Manticore Heavy Warjack. Huh. That will be curious because I don't really know people who use the Manticore right now.
I wish they did a big event like the End Times for Fantasy. That'd been really cool. Like, really build it up, get everybody psyched, put out like a new book, and then like 1 or 2 models for a few of the factions, and like have the fluff really wrap up and like make it very like crazy. Something like ridiculous happen. Like, yeah, we just blew up Signar. Oh no.
It's just a crater.
Yeah, it's like, yep, it turns out Crix won, and now it's like the Signar militia of resistance, and now like they've just combined with the Lays and like and totally shake things up, and then like, oh, by the way, we made a new edition. Surprise!
We just, you know, decimated possibly your favorite faction. All right, new game. Hee.
You just change it, and you do it to everybody. Like everybody goes through it. Like Scorn fully invades, and Protectorate and Scorn just maul each other, and Retribution finally gives up and kills itself.
Yeah.
Yeah, hey, it's 2 years. A lot can happen in 2 years.
I know, and that's going to be an interesting jump, right?
Is anybody in the fluff like in the middle of something?
So literally, Siege Brisbane is like captured somewhere by the Butcher, and like he's maybe going to get like sent back to Signar, but like he was almost mortally wounded by the Butcher because whatever, and he's just not been addressed or talked about in like the last couple of books. Like,
He's dead.
Send him back in pieces.
Horrible
like, like good old Theon Greyjoy style. And mail him pieces to Haley. Anyway.
I'd be down with that.
Stop. I do not like your Age of Signar joke. Thank you.
Age of Signar is fantastic.
No. Bad.
We could watch Signar fall. It'd be great.
Why is everybody against Signar?
Because they're in the middle.
Yeah.
Anyone who's the protagonist of a series deserves to either become the antagonist or die.
So Signar is the most powerful, it seems, and has the richest land and resources and everything, but they're just fighting like a 5-front war.
Right.
Somehow they're still doing it.
Right.
Well,
So
I mean,
they gotta die.
practically speaking, why hasn't like any of the dragons come out? Like freaking Crix's dragon.
Or the
just,
unending
like,
legions of undead.
Yeah, it's
Well,
like,
I mean, but you're saying, why are they winning? It's like,
So Khador is full-on invading, and Signar is somehow holding them off. They're slowly losing, but they're holding Khador off more or less.
yeah.
But then Crix is on their other border and somehow not destroying them utterly and completely.
The end times for Warmachine should have been all the giant shoulder pads exploding. Now the Iron Kingdoms have to live in a post-apocalyptic shoulder padless hellscape.
How are you supposed to know your power level if you don't have big shoulder pads? Gosh,
No, the
Owen.
shoulder pads, just they finally give out. They're like, wait, how big is... And they just get crushed under their weight. And then it's all over. That's a good one for Bishop.
So for the audience who's still listening, oh my goodness, the Trollbloods battle group will include 1 Ragnar Sky Splitter, the Rune Master, 1 Troll Axer Light War Beast, a Troll Bouncer Light War Beast, and a Troll Impaler Light War Beast. So 3 lights for trolls.
What's a bouncer?
I think the Impaler, well, I don't know. Again, we'll see. Does he keep snipe or far strike or whatever? We'll see.
The first game against Trollbloods I ever played was against a bouncer.
Really?
Yeah, it's got like a cool animus.
Yeah.
I like that war beast. They're bringing it back. I like it.
Twisted Bishop says the next Colossal should be a regular-sized warjack with 12-inch high shoulder pads. Oh my goodness. I don't even know if that would fit in a Battlezone case.
Sideways.
According to the latest Hordes book, the Devour Worm has showed up, and Bloody Barnabas has become a god.
Ooh.
Wait, Barnabas has become a god?
according to James, who's saying that was in the latest thing.
Ooh, he should be on a large base then when he comes back as an epic warcaster. I mean, huge base.
Circle Oboros gets Tanith the Feral Song. Interesting. 1 Gorax Light War Beast, because you can't have too many of those. Wild Argus War Beast. 1 Pure Warp Wolf Heavy War Beast. So 2 lights and heavy again. Or 2 lights and heavy this time. I don't know anything about these new casters either. Legion is getting 1 Krissa Conviction of Everblight. 2 Shredder Lesser War Beasts. 1 Nephilim Bolt Thrower Light War Beast, and 1 Naraf Heavy War Beast, and 6 color stat cards.
Guess everyone's had enough of those Carnivians.
Or they already own. Scorn, finally, last one here is Scorn, getting Beastmaster Zikar. 1 Cyclops Raider Light War Beast, 1 Cyclops Savage Light War Beast, and 1 Titan Gladiator Heavy War Beast. So, and those are all going to come out as 0-point battle box games, which will be kind of interesting because anytime you, I wonder if all of Mangled Metal is now going to be like 0-point games.
I would assume.
Scrubs.
Right then. So I mean that's it. That's what they talked about in their like half-hour Primecast that we've like dragged out for a bit. I don't know. It'll be interesting. I wonder how. So question for you guys as well, and I know you play mostly Infinity, I guess anymore. But are you guys gonna still play much Warmachine between now and the release of Mark III?
Yeah, it's like a lot of my friends are going to lock and load, so they're prepping for Masters and other competitive stuff, and so they're going to still be playing full on. Like nothing's changed.
Oh, yeah? I wonder what's going to happen in mine. I don't know. Because it's kind of hard to justify, like, battle reports now, right? Because you're like, well, they're not really going to be applicable anymore for a while.
Battle reports are about entertainment value. I mean, there also are learning experiences, but it's mostly entertainment value. People watch battle reports. Even if it's the old edition, people will still watch battle reports if they like the person. Like, it's like the whole combo. It's like the fact that they're learning from the game is like, I think, a smaller part of why people watch battle reports.
Yeah. By the way, everybody asking about the list that I was reading off, it came from Discount Games' Facebook page, so go check that out if you want to read it in depth, because it's everything that's releasing for June, July.
I don't know if I'm gonna, like, to be fair, I haven't been playing Warmachine because I'm kind of bored with the game right now.
Yeah.
So it's something interesting to make me want to play again once the new stuff comes out, just to see what changes. And because I have like a huge, I have all the models for Mena. I've now got every model and the duplicates that I can get in Mena. So I mean, I've invested in it. So maybe something more exciting, more interesting will come out of the new change. Like I am looking forward to new changes. Like, don't get me wrong. My problem with the game is that I find it's too tedious and takes too long, and it's not that exciting because it's very much a like I'm going to club you and there's nothing you can do about it, or vice versa.
Yeah.
And so I'm looking forward to see what changes they make. And I love robots. I love the rock'em sock'em robots.
Right. No, and I think that'll be really cool. And that's honestly the aesthetic is going to be what draws new people into the game again to me. So I am definitely looking forward to being able to play with robots again, and I want to do that so much. And I want to see Man of War be good again.
Michael Gray wants us to fight again Miranda before Mark III comes out.
That
to decide who's the best. But I just keep on beating you, don't I?
Well, I guess we could double points on me.
Yeah, that's Adepticon.
Adepticon, there was this awful scenario table where like I was guarding a gate and I had a 25-point list and he had a 50-point list and Striker 2 because he's a jerk. So it did not go as planned. To be fair, I won every other game I played at Adepticon this last time.
Did you?
Mm-hmm.
That your only loss was to me?
Yeah.
You've won a game against me though, right?
I don't know. We actually don't play games with each other very often. We just talk and fight in real life.
Yeah, that's true. So we could talk about Adepticon a little bit.
I have not actually talked about it at all, to be fair.
Oh, you haven't?
Nope. I just rendered that video, though, of us playing Artemis.
Oh, yeah?
Oh, man, I'm looking forward to that. That was actually a really fun experience. So there was a video game at Adepticon, which is, okay, a little weird, but it was an actual cooperative game with you and it was 5 other people. It was a total of 6, right, Owen?
There were 6 of us all together.
Yeah. And I don't know if you want to talk about the game very much since you are going to be putting the video out for it, but it's just this really awesome video.
That's fine. And maybe then someone will actually watch that video because it's like 45 minutes of just us yelling at each other.
Well, it's really just like Owen yelling at us. He gets to be like the starship commander, like Captain Kirk, I guess, and then all of the rest of us were on these separate computer controls commanding like communications, sensors, the helm, engineering, and weapons, I think.
Yeah.
It just wasn't the same because I didn't have an Apple. Would have been amazing.
You should have thought ahead.
I should have planned for that. I'll know that next time. I'll have my Apple when we go to do it.
Yes.
Yeah, basically it's just Star Trek. It's just a big game of Star Trek where Owen was the commander because he just has the personality for it. So just throw him in there, he'll do some crazy strategies. And then I wanted to drive the ship, but then I was like, but engineering seems really, really important. And so I went in engineering. And it basically just resource management of like putting more power to phasers and different things. And then Miranda, you were on communications or sensors?
No, Manoff John was on communications.
Yeah, when I was like, how long is it going to take us to get another nuke ready? And they're like, 15 minutes. I'm like, oh, well, try and taunt the enemy and we're going to run away.
It was sweet. Like, everyone was, like, sat except, like, Chris. Chris just sat in the corner and be like...
No, man. Me and Chris were all the time talking to one another. Because I had
to
know
really?
how long it was going to take for the mines to be ready.
Sweet.
And it was him who was dropping the mines.
See, I later realized that I could boost that. Like, I could make him drop mines, like, 3 times as fast.
Yeah, but we didn't have the ammo for that. I don't know. It was fun. I still couldn't get over the fact that, like... they didn't give me any like heads up. It's like, oh yeah, I'm gonna be the captain. He walks around and explains how all the stations work to every individual, and then I'm just like, well, I was kind of paying attention there. I'll figure it out.
Let's just goes to prove Captain doesn't need to know anything. He just says, "Get her done."
Yeah.
Just have fun.
I'm like, you should go to like warp 1 to dodge this. He's like, what do you think I've been doing this whole time? I'm like, I honestly don't really know.
So those of you asking about if Owen's channel will have the game footage, it will soon.
It will. It's just not up yet, but he's working on it, and if you guys keep encouraging him, I'm sure he'll get on it.
Just need to upload it, which I was gonna do during this live show, but I felt it would slow my computer a bit.
Yeah.
Just a tad.
Probably not. I mean, I'm just literally on this conversation call. Like, I'm not doing anything else.
Oh. Sure.
So
yeah. Adepticon was like it's always such a good experience, and I didn't really play as many games as I thought I would. It was really hard just like trying to stay on top of everything that was going on, and the 40K rooms really looked incredible. Like people were bringing out some amazing dioramas, and me being a huge sucker for robots kept like staring at all the Warlord Titans, and there was an Imperator Titan there. Oh, he looked so cool. They even had a game there on the 2nd floor that was all lit with LEDs, and they had these little tiny TV screens that were like playing, I don't know, anime or something, like random videos to look like it was in this futuristic sci-fi environment while they were fighting. Like, man, I really hope like Mark III like actually allows for a lot more terrain, because you could have such pretty looking boards.
Now that everyone switched to 2D terrain.
That kills me in Warmachine, is the lack of terrain and the lack of painted models.
Yes, and that honestly probably makes the game uninteresting when you see it in game stores, because like
I think the one thing about that video, like the video they did announcing Mark III, the one thing that like fucking blew, or I don't know if I can swear, but it blew my mind, was they're going around showing all these models, right? And then there's one point where you stop and they look at a tray that's got a Khador heavy on it, and it's got like a knockdown guy and a broken guy and like 3 more that have been smashed, and I'm like, this is a person who does not care about their models, that probably got someone to paint them, and you're putting this in your promotional video for the new edition to show that people don't care about these models, even if they're painted really well. And it blew my mind. I was like, you have millions of like hours and hours of footage of all of these games from all these different locations, and you chose that one? I don't know. It was just it was the video editor in me was like, this sums up my opinion of how people treat Warmachine models, and it sucks.
And it's a disservice, because there are a lot of really cool-looking models that get understated being on boring boards or not being painted. So. And I hope like the gameplay becomes more conducive to that. I know like Adepticon typically has like a painted model requirement, as do a lot of tournaments. It's just, I don't know how much of the maybe the early game stuff just didn't really encourage it as much, because the tight level of gameplay attracted just people who were as jonesed about the hobby side. But again, wild speculation.
Yeah, they've gotten more and more lax at Adepticon at requiring painting. Like in the Warmachine room, there's tons of unpainted armies.
Warmachine is actually like the only one that is lax. If you go to the other rooms, it's not accepted.
That's nice.
Yeah. Well, I mean, that's why.
I didn't sleep the night before Adepticon.
Yeah. If you want to feel bad, go look at the high-class 40k armies or the Infinity armies, and you're just like, oh, one day I'll paint like that.
Or even the historical stuff. I mean, people will grow really not to them.
Yeah, Adepticon is super cool. It's probably my favorite con. There's just so much going on and so many game systems and so many people I love that are there that hang out that I don't get to otherwise. And
it's such a gamers con. Like it's literally just people who want to play the game, like the game, or talk about the game. And I think that's like and all the games. Like it's not like different developers trying to sell to each other and like that kind of thing. It's more just people who all enjoy this stuff.
Right. Yeah.
I don't know.
No, it's a nice place to go and like enjoy fellow like just common interests. Like everybody who goes to Adepticon has a common interest with you, and so it's really easy to just be like, hey, what are you playing? What are you talking about? What are you guys talking about? Like, I don't know. It's very relaxing, especially if you have like a day job where nobody knows what you do, or even like, you know, you don't have a whole big circle of friends who do what you do, or you don't have a particular big gaming club or whatever. Like it's nice to see like a crowd of people and be like, wow, there's a lot of energy here, people into this. It makes me more into this. So that was a tangent, sorry.
Yeah, I was motivated to start up my channel again. We'll see if I follow through or not. I did record one game with Men Off Beyond.
Yeah.
So,
and when's the game to be up?
And I plan on editing it soonish. So I freaked out. So I also there wasn't any plug nearby, power outlet. So filming the game with a little camcorder, ran out of batteries as it does after like an hour, and then I was filming on my phone, and then plugged in the camera, and then filmed it with the camera for the last part of the game. And I switched all the footage to my computer and then deleted it off my phone to make more space. And then I have like an open fan on top of it, and it's right beside my desk, and I had a glass of liquids that tipped over towards my computer. I don't know why I have this set up like this, but it was so close to just going in and pouring all over my graphics card and motherboard. I panicked. This was like 30 minutes before the show. I was like, ah! But all is well. All is well. So now I have no excuse. I have to...
well, Dan, and Owen, honestly, like, if I'm not going to be doing, like, much playing... Well, I'll still play, I guess, Mark II, but if I'm not going to be recording much with that, maybe we could get in some PvP Warmachine tactics games if you both have it still. You both still play it?
I hate that game so much.
It's actually a lot better. Me and John played like yesterday. We did a stream of us playing it, and it works.
Yeah.
That is the best recommendation I can give for it now. Is that it isn't broken anymore, and you actually know what's going on. I still don't fully understand how the stats compare to each other because they don't seem consistent. Like there's a dice roll going on, but I don't know what it is. But like you're not gonna lose a game because it just like lags out and breaks, or I mean, it's still kind of slow. But it definitely does capture the feel now, and it doesn't crash when you try and open XSplit.
Well,
I haven't even listened. That's good.
so I opened up single player to see where I was in the campaign, and it was
There's a
like
single
the
player?
third. There was like a third mission. I was like, all right, let's see if they've improved it, and it felt similar to me. And I was like, guy, go here. Goes and turns around by himself, and I'm like, why did you turn around? And I have to like change the facing and then like click end, and like, why is there no hotkey for end turn? Like end, like there's a hotkey for everything else. Like what? I have to click over there every time.
Oh, for end turn? Oh.
And like end activation, and I'm like, what? And then there's a mini map, but there's no like line
That
of
was
where
the
are
first-
you on the mini map. The mini map's like next to useless.
I will defend that. That was a new thing. They hadn't had that before, so I think they just need to improve it. I think they will get there. I was excited to see the mini map. You can't do so much with it yet, but it's there, which means it can get better now.
I don't know. It's still like it's still trying so hard to be an actual video game, but it's still not there. It seems, and it's been a couple of years.
It is now. I had said, like me and John talked about it the other day. If it had come out now, like if it came out the year or two ago, or however long it came out, as it is now, would have been amazing. This would have been one of those like swept the ideas as it like this is what it intended to be, but now it's like, it's kind of everyone like the interest is gone. Everyone kind of got burned by it. So I don't know. Battlefield Gothic, man, that's the name of the game now.
Yeah, I'm not gonna lie, that game looks mighty tempting. So does More Time. Oh.
More Time's great too. You could do an online PvP ongoing series of More Time. That'd be brutal. You'd lose that would be.
That'd be great. You'd lose all the time. That sounds fun.
More Time is such a challenging game, and I love it for that reason. And playing against human players would be even hard. Oh, I gotta do it. I'm probably gonna do that now. You buy More Time, you can get involved in my ongoing live streams of More Time campaigns, because I'm probably gonna do that.
I accept. I own More Time. Literally, I own it because I bought it on like a Steam sale or something, and I haven't even opened it because.
Oh, there you go. So you should play it because it's.
I should just go in and get face rolled a whole bunch.
Well, just play against the computer and get face rolled a whole bunch, because that's what happened to me when I started playing. And it's one of those games where, because you have your war band, right? And anyone who gets like knocked out of the mission, like that gets killed in the mission, has a potential of just dying and being gone from your party. And you lose all the money and experience and time you've put into trying to like train them. You have to buy a new one and try again. And that's with every guy.
I've played the old school RPGs. I mean, that's like Fire Emblem or.
Yep, imagine it's Fire Emblem, but they specifically set it up so you can't reload the game. Like, it's designed that you're just screwed. That guy dies, you're just like, Huh. It's great, though.
You just like cruelty in your games, I think.
Yeah?
Yeah, he's not lying.
Well, it's fun when there's an actual punishment. It's like Warmachine, like okay, just video games in general are so like cushioned now. Like I remember, like again, I was like 12, and so I had 6 hours to spend on just one mission where I had to control a TIE fighter through a freaking like cavern, and you're like, I don't know how to control this. And you're like, I should have a joystick, and you're like, and you like survive with like a sliver of box after trying 20 times, and all your siblings have been trying to for like the last 2 days, and you're like, yeah, we got it, and it was like there's nothing more satisfying, and now it's like, oh, pause, reload, pause, reload, pause, reload. Okay, got through that. Pause, reload, and it's just like, it's granted there was very frustrating at the time, but it's just I miss that.
Yeah, no, old school games were brutal, and that's why so few people played them, unlike now. So.
What's also great about it is even like Fire Emblem, like you said, how, for example, like you lose Ellawood, the game would end.
Yeah.
There isn't that in More Time. Your boss can get killed, like the leader of your party, and then you just have to keep going and like hire a new one and started to keep going.
Oh jeez. Alright,
Yeah,
I will give this game a shot. We'll see.
It's an interesting game. And then you're just permanently poor and trying the best you can to make sure everyone has a nice pair of pants before they have to go fight like undead demonic monsters and giant rat men and people with shotguns.
Oh, I gotta play this game.
Yeah,
I'm
man.
gonna buy it right now on Steam.
I recommend it.
Let's all
And
play
then-
More Time now. For the next 2 months, let's play More Time. Alright, well, I think we need to wrap this up. It's getting late for me, and I know it's late for you, Owen. Well,
Now
not
I
late.
go all the way from now until I go to work, so
Okay.
I am totally a midnight person. I might go play more time now.
Well, maybe we'll see online. Probably not. I will go to bed.
First, I have to finish uploading this video, which I started uploading during this talk, because I'm like, I'm sure it'll be fine.
Yeah.
Oh, it's an actual game.
Yes!
Yeah, it is.
No, but I mean,
Look
like,
at it.
it's like, yeah, it costs like $50.
Oh, does it? Wow, I bought it for like 15. That's rough. You missed the bandwagon there.
I really
Wow,
did.
it's $43. Yeah. Woo.
And then if you want the DLC.
Yeah, DLC.
But there's a poison wind globadier. That sounds awesome.
Yes.
I like how you can add all the DLC to your cart for $4, or buy the bundle for $3, and the buttons are literally next to each other. Which one do I want to do? I don't know how to make decisions. I'm under pressure.
All the massive releases for it.
If you get Battlefleet Gothic, you get 10% off. That is a bizarre 1-2 combo.
All
right.
Battlefield Gothic is also $45.
So then you'd save 10%. You would save like $4 and change.
There's a special promotion. Ends 21st of April.
Right, well, we're totally off topic at this point, so thank you guys for coming on and chatting about the wild new release, and we'll be following all of the stuff to come and see what the next 2 months brings, and yeah, let's enjoy this exciting time of change, and apparently play a lot of more time.
And die.
Yep.
All right. Good night, y'all.
Bye.